All right. Hi there. I'm Wendy Vaughn, and I'm a business success coach. And I am super excited to be here with Prosper and sharing with him and all of you listeners my perspective on how to follow your passion when you're starting out in business and what that means in terms of making that valuable difference for others and being true to yourself. So listen in as we uncover some of these golden nuggets.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, where we dive deep into real stories and also the messy moments that bring about the breakthrough our guests are always bringing us. So we obviously bring people who have walked the path so that they can let us know how we can do and have a happier existence. And that way, you're not going to be able to wander alone. So if you're here because you're maybe tired of struggling to either turn your passion into profit or wondering, is it even possible for me? Well, I'm about to tell you, you are about to make so much impact with your passion and your purpose and strategy that Wendy is going to be helping us with. Now, Wendy, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic, Prosper. So excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine. And for those that are meeting Wendy for the very first time, Wendy is the impact maker and somebody whose story is equal parts gritty, inspired with all those, how on earth did she do that moments? And I think by the time we're done with this particular episode, you're going to see yourself in her journey, because she viscerally believes that the work that is done by people like yourselves, the coaches, the consultants and energy workers, is so important out there. And obviously, in your own right, you're either creating a global movement towards helping others be, do, and have a happier existence. Now, she needs to be that person that actually helps and empowers you to achieve those levels of fulfillment and also impact. So I could go on and talk about things I'm not even qualified to be talking about. Why not let Wendy, give us a glimpse into her world? Now, obviously, Wendy, you didn't start off as the impact maker yourself. You started off in corporate. Tell us a little bit about your grassroots and how it all started.
Yeah. No, this has been quite the journey, as with all entrepreneurs, right? It's never that quick and easy, like take the escalator up and bing, here I am. No, not at all. So it's quite a journey. I'll condense it into just the nuggets, but it actually started when I was 10 years old. I had this vision and mission and passion about being this trumpet player who was leading the orchestra, not as a conductor, but in the trumpet section and playing this exciting music as 10 years old. That was like my I could just feel it. And when I was listening to certain music, it just resonated. So from there, music was everything to me. And I pursued it as a collegiate level. I actually got a master's degree in trumpet performance, Prosper. Isn't that amazing? In terms of people didn't even know that you get a master's degree in playing trumpet. But I did, and I thought I was on my journey to realizing my dream. And actually what happened was I fell flat. My passion, my purpose didn't matter. Why? Because there was one missing link. I could not audition well. So I managed to get invited. It's very political, and you have to be invited to an audition in order to be able to even attempt to gain a spot in an orchestra. And for those first two auditions that I was invited to, I completely choked. Game over. And so it's like, oh, Oh my God, my world just vanished. But I bounced just like most entrepreneurs do, right? We have that tenacity, that grit, that level of no, 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 no. This is still important to me somehow, some way. I got to make it happen. So I started my first business. No business skills, no sales skills, no marketing. In fact, I was pretty much a socially awkward classical music nerd. Yeah. And so I figured, how hard could it be? I'm an expert at music. I know all the great musicians. So I started a music agency where I provided live music to events. And I quickly found the wedding market, the wedding niche. People are planning weddings where I was about 9 months out of the year. It was Scottsdale, Arizona, beautiful area, lots of resorts, great weather, except for June, July, and August. And so I stepped into this business building mode, knew nothing, like I said. And I quickly realized that sitting in my desk, creaking my chair back and forth, was not going to bring clients to me. So I invested in a marketing coach. It was one of the best decisions I did because I knew that I just couldn't figure this out on my own. And I didn't want to sit there leaning back and forth in my chair. So I got the tape series. Now I'm dating myself, cassette tapes. Yep. I'm not a spring chicken. From Jay Abraham. I don't know if you know of Jay, but he is a phenomenal marketing guru, right? And internationally known these days. But thankfully, when I came across his path, why he wasn't charging what he's charging today, which is about $120,000 a day. So anyway, with Jay's help, I learned experiential marketing and risk reduction, risk reversal. And so I was able to change things rather quickly. And I was getting lots of clients, potential clients coming in. They would talk to me about their wedding and I would give them suggestions and they'd simply say, "Thank you, Wendy. This has been great. We'll get back to you." And they never did. And this happened over and over and over and over. And it's like, oh my God, what is going on here? And so through that process, that 6 months of almost giving up on yet another venture, plan B was starting to fade in front of me. My brain was working at figuring this out. What is going on? Why aren't people saying yes? I have a very analytical brain. It drives my husband nuts, truly. But I'm also able to kind of shift perspectives and feel and see through other people's perspectives. So I was asking myself, what do they need to know or feel in order to make their decision? You know, to say yes, to buy what I'm offering. And so through that discovery and my innate skills, I was able to distill basically a framework or a formula that worked like magic, truly did. I went from like literally not getting any yeses to it was actually for my assistant, she said I was scary. I'm like, "Patty, what are you talking about?" She said, "Wendy, everybody who comes in here to meet with you and talk about their wedding music buys." And she said, "That's just not right. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Patty, I'm not doing anything. I'm just supporting them to feel aligned and confident about making their buying decision." She said, "Well, it just is. I've never, ever seen anybody everybody that comes in walks out as a client." So fast forward, that was a revelation, a discovery, an aha, whatever you want to call it, a download that I received that allowed me to have a process, a formula. So fast forward, I ended up in corporate. We sold the business, and because kids came along, they change everything, as you know, and it's true. And we didn't want to raise them in triple degree temperatures, so sold the business and lived off the proceeds for too long. Reality hit, and so I ended up getting a corporate job to actually create financial income because we couldn't live on air anymore. And so in that role, corporate, I hated it. I mean, it was the classic Shark Tank. It was like sell, convert them, do whatever you got to do. Cold calling. It wasn't a call center at all. It was like high trust relationship building through cold calling. And oh my God, I just thought I was going to die. It was just so painful. And then I thought to myself, after 2 weeks into that job, it's like, this is not working. I'm like, Wendy, just think back to what you did and what worked well for you. People are people, and they still have the same kind of, needs for clarity, confidence, and inspiration to be able to say yes to an offer. So I refocused everything down into a cold call type of a micro session. Literally like a bull ride. 8 seconds is all you got. And you're either on your back on the dirt or you're still hanging on and your knuckles are bloody. And so I applied that. And within 6 months, I was their top revenue producer.
Wow.
In an industry I knew nothing. It was healthcare IT. I was a musician. Talk about acronym city. Healthcare, IT. Everything was an acronym. It was like a foreign language. Absolutely. And so within 6 months, I was cranking. For 5 years, I was their top producer. And to the point where they were able to sell the business for a huge profit. And the company that acquired us was this large entity where we were one of the portfolio pieces within a portfolio of investments. It was one of these big, I don't know, it's so complex, I couldn't even tell you, but a strategy for other people to make a lot of money. And so they changed the game a bit, and they started taking away the accounts from me that I had cultivated. They redistributed them to their people. It's like, oh, great, you warmed them up. Here, now build some more. Go get some more. Go get some more. I didn't give a flying flip that my income just went, because I'm commission based.
Right.
I was living on a good solid mid 6-figure income. It was exciting. It was fun. And it just went.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, don't just do that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Go do it again? Start over? No. So Friday afternoon, right after the paycheck came in, here's my notice. And that was that. And I jumped into coaching, because it's like, I got something I can teach people, and I know it works. I've proven it over and over and over. So Absolutely. Here we go.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us through this whole journey, because it just really, really does give a lens into your way of being. So let's just go back a little bit, Wendy, because you opened us up at 10-year-old Wendy, who obviously was this proficient trumpet player and, had that going on for her. Now, were there any inspirations around that sort of line of work, because you did take it seriously? Like you said, you got a master's in playing the trumpet. Who were you referencing in order for you to be that sort of person?
Well, and I guess that's why I relate so well with the people I work with now, is because it was just this inner passion, just this inner sense of, it wasn't like, oh, I want to be like that person. It was, just this sense of, this is something that I know I would love to do for the rest of my life. And so it was just something that I was driven. I mean, as a little kid, I'm practicing 3 hours a day. My dad had to tell me to stop. Stop. He's like, you practiced enough. We've had enough. So when you're passionate, I know, because learning how to play trumpet, it's kind of harsh. It's like, It's
Yeah.
not pretty.
Right.
It's
Absolutely.
not pretty. And
So,
so when you have that inner passion, if it's supported and it's on a track where you can run with it, I mean, sure, there are icons, there are mentors, there's people that cross your path that then facilitate that. But it's just this inner guidance that is just it's what life is. It's the juice.
now, my question now is, if you had been able to audition well, who would we be
Mm.
today?
Oh my gosh. If I'd found a coach back then that could help me with what was going on up here,
Mhm.
then my life would be different. But I don't have any regrets. I can't say that I have regrets because I have been able to feel so fulfilled and, joyful in being able to share my wisdom and knowledge with other people. But back to your question, what would be different? I mean, I can only guess that I would probably just, be enjoying my life as a musician. I don't know.
Okay, all right. Let's park that there because it will come and become relevant a little bit later on. So you did also introduce the character, which is your dad, who obviously, as the father, was saying after 3 hours, okay, that's enough. All right. But
Right.
was that just for you to at least catch your breath, or was there visceral support in the journey that and the path that you were on, especially when it came to the family?
Oh yes, yes. There was plenty of support and inspiration to continue down that path.
Right.
Um, I, my family, my mother, she was just ear to ear grins every time, I'd have a concert or anything. It was, you know, an exciting opportunity and brag-worthy, definitely. The interesting thing was the further I went in that career path, the more expectations there were,
Right.
and it became this um, consuming aspect of my life too, which I have to look at, because just as with maybe athletes, that are they're training 6 and 7 hours a day to make it to the World Cup, circuit and whatnot and compete at that level. And you sacrifice a lot of other things in life, to be at that peak performance level. So it's just, it is a curious thing, but there was definitely lots of support and, you know, for that journey.
Now, I also like how you utilize your skill set to actually go on and start a business and a thing of your own. Now, what you mentioned was there was a time when you were trying to convince people to buy from you and things of that nature. Were you
Mm-hmm.
also then going to be the performer, or did you also have to find other people that would then come in and perform as the agent that you were?
Yeah, so that's an interesting thing because as a trumpeter,
Yes.
um, not many people hire a trumpeter unless you're playing taps, reveille, or something like that. I actually played a lot of simulated, like Queen Elizabeth type, royal court entrances, fanfares. But for the most part,
Oh,
people want other instruments. They want string quartet, or they want a harpist, or they want a jazz trio, or they want, other things. So that's why I was, actually, without understanding it, I built a scalable business right from the beginning because I was not the service. I was simply the facilitator. And so I
mm,
had a roster of over 200 different musical groups, everything from a single harpist all the way up through a big band, a pop band. And so I was able to, I mean, at one point we were providing, music for 40 to 50 weddings a weekend.
right.
Yeah, I made my first million by the time I was 30. So, it was just because I failed at auditioning. It put me on a different track, and without even understanding it, started a scalable business right from the beginning.
See, what that also presents is these people actually now had to audition to you, not the other way. So
Yep,
half of the times,
exactly.
when we are sort of on our way up, we're actually being shown certain things that maybe are not meant to be our thing to focus on, but you went on and you actually orchestrated these 40 to 50 events, and it actually worked out perfectly. So
yeah, that's a brilliant point. They were auditioning for me. They literally were sending tapes and promo kits and everything else, and asking to be represented. So it was a twist.
Twisted that.
And of course, I was much more compassionate than the people that auditioned me. Is like, next.
Oh, I can imagine. But there's a statement that you mentioned, Wendy, when you said when you sold the business and then you could no longer, stay on the proceeds. And there's a particular statement that you said we couldn't leave off air. But I thought a trumpet is all about blowing air into an instrument. So you've already been living off of air your whole life.
True. That's absolutely true. Yes.
Great stuff. But obviously that's beside the point. Now, in this role that you went in, I mean, obviously you already had run a business. You are understanding, you were very entrepreneurial in the way that you conducted, even the way that you're bringing in the clients. Like you said, you had a process. There was a way of getting an actual sort of result. Were there other people around you that maybe emulated your way of doing, or do they just come in, clock in, and just do their work because you ended up becoming the highest performer in this scenario?
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about that music agency?
No, I'm talking, sorry.
For the corporate.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like a duck out of water there, in terms of just being totally different from the typical sales approach. Because the process that I created is really grounded in compassion.
Right.
And I mean, that's how I sold. That's how I supported people to make their decision. And so I always approach sales from a space of true compassion, consultative. What matters most to you? What is it that is important to you? How is it that you're needing this, but yet you've got that? And just really discovery. And so none of the people in corporate were doing that kind of a approach. It was more transactional. And frequently I was asked to share, with the team what I was doing differently, and how the results were so, such a discrepancy between their results and my results. And it was like, when I was talking this language to your traditional salespeople, nothing against them at all, but it's more of a transactional type space. They weren't like getting it. It was just like, huh? I don't know. We just got to bang out the numbers. It's like throwing mud on the wall. Some stick, some doesn't. Move on. It's like, people are people, and they need stuff. They want to know that, they're being heard, and, that they matter.
See,
right?
What that also tells me is the actual reaction that you also took to the merger that you presented to us as well, because now you were now just being treated like a number in an
exactly
extra, you know what I mean, like
a total number. Yeah,
exactly. And obviously from somebody who plays such a sophisticated instrument, you were probably just being treated like that person who just walks around hitting a triangle, whether they're part of the band or they're not, it doesn't really
well, I just felt like a chess piece that I was just moved over here.
But what that also mentions is you had now acquired a bit of value in who you are as a person. And this is now what you help your clients to do, to own their value, actually package their wisdom. Could you maybe break that down a little bit? What does owning your value actually entail?
Yeah, it is so important. In just embracing, quantifying, embodying the value that we bring and that we are making that meaningful difference in our own personal, unique way. There is nobody else like you, Prosper. There's nobody else that has your wisdom, your perspective, your experience, your knowledge. There's nobody else. You are the only one. And your interpretation and way of processing and presenting information is going to be that perfect, like, match for somebody that's like, wait, now what I'm hearing him say is making this difference for me. Whereas, I could hear the same thing from somebody else and it doesn't resonate. And so just owning the fact that we each are a gift and our life has been a journey of discovery and creating everything that we have has brought us to this moment is the perfect moment to be everything we need to be. And the difference that we can make. So first off, owning that. And then looking in terms of who do I love to support? Who is it that when I work with this type of a person, it lights me up? It doesn't feel like a heavy lift. It doesn't feel like I'm like forcing or chasing or, any sort of push energy. It just feels like this, almost a dance. And with that, then you have that ability to really stand in your value because they get the value that you have. It's like if I were to tell you something that, what's an example that I could provide quickly? Like if I were a interior designer and you were looking to remodel your home or something, and I was trying to convince you of a color palette that it's like, I don't like that, so I don't want to work with you, because you have a different idea of what I'm looking for. But whereas somebody else could, have exactly what you're trying to create. And it's like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. I love your ideas. I want to hire you. It's not like the other person wasn't any, more or less. It's just that resonance and knowing that there is that alignment out there. And so that's the first thing, because one of the things that I found with people is they start discounting their pricing, thinking that's going to make the difference, right? That's going to make the difference. That's going to make it so that it's easier for me to get clients. And it's just the opposite. And not that we want to escalate our prices out of reason, but when we own our value of the service that we're providing, that allows us to actually attract people that are more willing to do more work, deeper work, and make a bigger difference, have more success. So the less you charge, the less they'll get. It's like Captain Obvious, but it's true because they're not putting as much of themselves, effort, energy, focus into it. Now, the other thing that, in terms of owning your value, and that got a little deep, and I apologize for that, but, it's just a matter of, it truly is a matter of understanding the ripple effect of your work. It's not an hourly commodity. It's not like preparing taxes, where it's like, okay, we've filled out all the blanks and we got the tax return done, we're going to turn it in. That's kind of just once and done. Great. It's a service that is more transactional. Whereas coaching, the difference that is making for that person not only lasts the rest of their life, but it impacts every person that they interact with. If you show up as a better deal, or if you're a better business person, or you have more success in business, you're able to serve more. If you're able to earn more, you're able to contribute more. It just is this ripple effect, and understanding the fact that the difference that you make is beyond just a simple fix of like productivity. Now I know that I need to block out time on my day to get stuff done. You know, no coach is going to teach you just that, right? They're going to teach you things, help support you to become a whole different person, to reach a level of an iteration or evolution of yourself that you never even thought was possible. And so understanding that, communicating that, right? And I haven't done a very good job of this. It's been very vague because I don't have a specific person in mind, but communicating specifically the transformation that is going to result after working with a coach then allows you to really own that value. So it's not a matter of $200 an hour. It's a matter of living an entirely new level of success, happiness, meaning, and purpose.
I like that. And considering you said you didn't have anyone specific to attach that to, maybe you can tell us about a client and a transformation that happened after having worked with you, but obviously mentioning names if that's okay. And, you know, just so we can get that, what was there before and what did they implement and what actually changed so that we sort of have an understanding of what this fundamental shift.
Right.
Owning your value looks
exactly like. Yeah, perfect. So who comes to my mind is a woman who for probably 20 years she had specialized in supporting women in marriages with men who have ADHD.
Right.
So it's difficult to be in those relationships if you're neurodivergent and neurotypical, because there's a gap in terms of behavior. You know, it's like a misunderstanding, and it creates friction. You know, if there's not that support and understanding, it can lead to pretty toxic relationships. So that was her specialty, is working with couples that were neurodivergent, neurotypical, mainly ADHD and, you know, the snail brain, as I call myself. One track that I run on, you know, neurotypical. And so before we worked together, she was struggling to get clients. And I think her offer was something ridiculous, like 6 sessions for like $200. And it was based per session. It's like, okay, we'll work together for 6 sessions and it's $200. And, you know, I'll help you with figuring out ways to communicate with each other better. And so I started asking her, I was like, well, so when couples are able to communicate better with each other, then what happens? What shows up? Oh, well, when they're able to communicate better, then they have more fun instead of friction. You know, things are easier. Okay, so there's things are more fun and easier. So then what does their life look like when there's more fun and, you know, getting through the day is easier? Well, then, you know, they're able to like go on vacations and stuff and really start to live life. Okay, so now they're having fun. Daily tasks are easier. They're actually traveling together and, you know, enjoying their life more. It's like, yeah. So we went from communication to now they're living lives of joy, you know, spontaneity, fun. And as a couple, how are they being together? Are they like, you know, romantic again and, you know, having fun with each other that way? And it's like, well, yeah, definitely. I'm like, well, there you go. So we went from a 6-pack of, you know, 1-hour sessions for a couple $100 to fix a communication issue, to understanding that actually what she does is she rekindles and reignites the relationship and the love that they once had. And so now when you reframe it, and I said, so how long would it take you to work with a couple and and support them to rekindle and fall back in love with each other. Rekindle that love and fall back in love with each other and have a life of joy. Probably 6 to 8 months. So 6 to 8 months. And that's the shift in their life from cat and dog fight, polar opposites, hating each other, to that. So do you see how instead of a 6-pack of hourly sessions for a couple $100, do you see how now we can communicate the value of your work? And she's like, yeah. It's just like ear to ear. She's like, yeah. And her whole life shifted in terms of now how she was speaking with her potential clients, how she was communicating in her marketing, and the offer that she now stood proud of, instead of thinking smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, maybe I could do 8 sessions for $300 and smaller and smaller. And it just completely shifted her paradigm without me, say, oh, you got to add more. You got to do this. You got to do that. No, it was still the work she was doing. She just didn't take inventory of it. It wasn't just fixing their communication. She was doing all sorts of other things that she didn't recognize and she didn't communicate. But the main thing is the outcome.
Oh, absolutely. See, that's the value which the customer actually get, the future which they are anticipating, because nobody really wants to be fighting. Nobody wants to be bickering at each other. It's not fun. You know what I mean? So if the coach that you're talking about can actually present that, hey, we can take you to the future. It takes, this amount of time and things of that nature, because there's one thing about strategizing things into hourly sessions and, smaller sessions like that, because somebody can sit and pretend for an hour and you're not transforming at all, because they just want that time to pass. And when it's done, so.
Right. And then they don't want to, like, oh, I don't know that I should buy another session because not that much happened. It's like,
oh, absolutely. And I can only believe how that coach started noticing the actual impact, because when you're a coach, you're affecting people's health, wealth, and relationships. And if those people are now going to be going around on holidays, guess what? The people that provide that holiday now have a business. The people that provide music at their wedding can now stay in business.
Right. Exactly. It's those ripple effects. They just go on and on and on from Hawaii to Australia.
Oh, absolutely. But do people see this though? Or are people really just focused in the provision of what they want to provide because that's what they were trained to do?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting perspective, because a lot of coaches and practitioners, they get so excited about the process that they've discovered and that they, utilize. And that's what they think is exciting, is the process. But people don't buy the process. Just like you said, they buy the future. They want that future that resonates. That's what matters most. Oh my gosh, if I could rekindle our relationship and have the love that we once felt, I'm all in. Do you want a process to be able to talk to somebody so they don't get pissed off? No, I don't know. Maybe. So, it's people want the outcome, not the process. And so that's typically the stumbling block of a lot of experts, is that they are so excited about their process. And that's what they think others are going to be excited about. But it's the key, right? It's why, it's how. I know, but we don't care. We do, but we don't, we kind of do, but we don't really, like, you care. It's like when I buy a drill and people say you don't buy a drill because you want the drill. You buy a drill because you want the hole, but that's not true. I buy the drill because I want to mount the TV on my wall.
Right.
So I can sit on the couch and watch the TV up there. That's why I buy a drill, because it's about the TV.
You see, now if we can actually really put things in perspective here, you introduced us to, you playing the trumpet, and you were trying to have that be the solution for somebody's wedding, but someone doesn't come to buy the trumpet instrument in and of itself, which is what you were selling. They want a happy day that they can remember and make sure that the ambience and everything else worked.
Yep.
No,
you nailed it.
Right.
You nailed it. And that's what I learned from Jay Abraham, that you nailed it. That's experiential marketing. And that's what I learned from him. It's like, they want that fairy tale wedding. So I sold music based on, do you want to feel like Princess Diana? Or do you want to feel like, like you're floating in like a fairy tale wedding, or do you want to? And so just like you said, it's the ambiance. They don't buy a trumpet. They buy what the result is.
But that sort of now is on the fringes of woohoo fluffiness, and because people, you just want to sell whatever your offers, your courses and things of that nature. And some people might hear coaching or intuition or heart-centered type businesses and then gets too fluffy or too vague. Mm-hmm. How do you maybe work with them for them to have that sort of understanding, just so for those people that just think, I don't think it works in my type of business?
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great question, because coaching is really in its pioneering state, right? It's still an industry that is just, it's coming into its own. But what's so interesting to me, though, the parallel of a coach, think about the athletes, right? What top athlete doesn't have at least one, if not two or three coaches, right? That has helped them to achieve that level of excellence. You get a coach for your kid when they're 8, 9, 10 years old, let's set them up with a coach. So we got a football coach. We've got a basketball coach. We all know that, right? It's like known. And, my sons are all athletes, and that was one of the first things we did was, let's find a program so they can get a coach so they can be great. But yeah, you think, I want to be great in life. I want to be great in business. So what do? I get a coach? No, that wasn't even a thought, right? That's not really a go-to thought. It is becoming more well-known, maybe a relationship coach, but it's still like, it's not a therapist. So therapist, coach, what's the difference? And so we're just in this kind of, coming into a legitimate industry phase. It's a huge industry. There's no doubt about it, especially since the pandemic created this great resolution and great resignation. A lot of people jumped into coaching. And it's still one of those things, though, that is not a commonly gone, like, oh, I'm struggling here, I'm going to hire a coach. Mm-hmm. And so that's why information, or what they call it, educational marketing, is critical, because people need to be educated a little bit about what is the benefit of hiring a coach. Who would have even thought that in order to get a advancement or escalate in the career world or the corporate world, to go from a middle management to a CEO position, let me get a coach. Who would have thought of that? But if you get a coach, boom, now you're on the straight and narrow path to get that promotion, because you don't have to figure it out. So it's just coming into more awareness, and it comes down to, do you want to keep doing what you're doing, trying to figure it out and see your future kind of off in the distance and time keeps ticking on and on and on? Or do you want to have somebody who has developed a process, system, proven path that can get you there quicker?
Now, you see, the thing about trying to be a pioneer, especially in an industry where there's not that much precedent, like you are sort of alluding to, people tend to burn out on their journey. And I notice you have actually written a book, Success Without Burnout. Tell us a little bit about what that entails and why it's relevant at the moment.
Yeah. It is an interesting kind of paradigm, because those that are, passionate about making a difference for others tend to, and this is a generality, so it's, take it for whatever it's worth, but tend to over deliver and undercharge, because they get into that, oh, people can't afford me. Just kind of like the description I gave you of the coach that worked with couples, in the ADHD space. They don't own their value, and they start playing that discount pricing game, and it becomes almost like working for pennies by the time you factor in all the effort that goes into marketing and becoming known. And you have to be discovered somehow. You can't be the best kept secret and get clients. Referral business happens for a while, but not forever. And so it becomes this cycle of over delivering and undercharging. And it does lead to that, is this really worth it? This is not the way I thought it was going to be. And so that level of like, I just don't think I can keep up doing this, because they haven't put in place a strategy that helps them to own their value, create a service delivery that allows them to, work with fewer people for a bigger, investment, so that they're not burnt out, and have that predictable path of bringing in new clients. So when you don't have that strategy in place, it's a frustrating track. It is extremely frustrating, because it does take people to wake up to the fact that, I hadn't thought about getting a coach. I never even crossed my mind. What's all that about? And they need educating. It's not like, I think I'm going to look up, I'm going to find a coach today. People don't think that, right? Not yet anyway. But so it does lead to frustration if there's not a solid strategy.
Do you know where this brings us to, Wendy? Indulge me here for a minute. The one thing that I think has brought you where you are today and doing what you're doing today is you're now literally helping other people audition as coaches to their clients, something that you had not been able to do yourself. I don't know how you feel about that.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it that way. It is, that that is a paradigm shift, definitely, because that is really important to show up in a way that a potential client really understands the person, right? It's like they have to, because you are the product. The coach is the product.
Right.
It's not the technology, it's not the process, but it's actually that holistic person. And so it is somewhat of an audition, isn't it? Yeah. That's an interesting paradigm shift. I love that.
So where can people go to, Wendy, so they can actually learn how to audition for their clients, especially when they want to work?
Well, I love that opportunity. Thank you so much, Prosper, for that. So my website is the easiest portal, if you will, and that's impact-makercoaching.com.
Absolutely. Fantastic. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes. And how can people get access to the book, as well as it is a #1 Amazon international seller, right? So they can get access.
Yep, that's on Amazon. And I also have a free gift on my website that is the passion. Now let me think about it. Passion to Profit 6-Figure Blueprint. This doesn't sound quite right. When you go there, you'll see it. It's a better title than that, but it's a business blueprint for creating a passion-driven business. And that's a really fun resource that's available on my website as well, that just lays out what I was alluding to in terms of a strategy that allows you to really step into your value, own it, and attract those kind of clients that truly love what you have to offer.
Absolutely. I will definitely put all those links in the show notes so that people can actually jump on there and start creating the impact that they absolutely have to, because they're already working with these people. They already know the tools, the skills, the processes that actually help people be, do, and have a happier existence.
Absolutely.
All that just is stopping them from stepping into that role of creating that much impact is for them to learn to audition. And once they do, own their value. And I think such a very sort of good premise for a lot of people to get started on. But now that you've brought us into your world, Wendy, what's happening? What's next? I've seen you on big screens. I've seen you with really bigger people than you've mentioned on the show today. You're a bit of a celebrity in your own world, aren't you?
Well, I don't know about that, but I appreciate that. What is next? What is next? Well, I just continue to support those coaches that are ready to step into that level of success, and that's really where I'm finding my biggest joy. I'm not looking at becoming an influencer, a celebrity, or anything like that. It's really working at that high impact level with those coaches that are ready. Not everybody is ready to step into that level of success. So that's part of my vision, is raising consciousness. And that's how I'm doing it. Through coaches, giving people voices, giving people the ability to realize the gifts that they have been given.
Oh, absolutely. No, Wendy, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent with us on the call. I mean, thank you for your transparency, obviously the laughter, the insights, and everything else that comes along with it. And
well, thank you. This has been a great conversation. You're a great host. Thank you so much. Very, very unique and refreshing perspectives.
I appreciate that. And for those that are listening, I also hope you are feeling inspired, challenged, and maybe even a little bit uncomfortable, but in the best way, because growth lies beyond that level of comfort. So if any of this resonated with you, maybe you were nodding along to Wendy's story, or you were seeing yourself in one of her client transformations, or you're that person that is stopping dead in their tracks at the audition stage, don't let this pass you by, because the impact maker herself has created courses, strategies, and books that can actually help you realize that impact that you actually can. All right. And if you think you are fine, I encourage you to maybe share this episode with somebody that you know who's wrestling with the same questions. They might be looking to find their voice, find their worth, and just show up in front of their audience. Wendy is definitely the person to go to. And if you haven't already, subscribe so that you never miss out an episode on the Online Prosperity Show. And I can't thank Wendy enough for the time that she's spent with us. Until next time, keep leaning in, keep risking, and also keep building your prosperity with heart. Bye for now.